This is the cheapest Snapdragon Gen 1 phone with 120Hz AMOLED screen, 120-watt fast charging, and physical trigger buttons. Sobrang panalo talaga for a very low price of 26,990 pesos. And just to mention, the Black Shark 5 Pro with the same chipset will cost you around 37,990 pesos. So that is 11,000 pesos more. So bakit kaya napakamura ng Poco F4 GT? First time holding this phone, mafe-feel mo kaagad ang difference compared to the other Poco phones dahil meron itong aluminum frame which is a first sa Poco lineup with a glass back na rin. Naka-Gorilla Glass Victus din ang front glass niya pero wala itong dust or splash resistant, hindi tulad ng legendary Poco F3. The design, sakto lang, nothing special. I mean, may lightning, Harry Potter. I mean, mga Pinoy tayo, so for sure lalagyan mo kaagad ito ng case. Right? Pero in fairness, gustong-gusto ko yung shade ng black na ginamit nila dito. Actually, more on the gray side siya. May RGB light din siya sa camera module. At first, parang pointless siya eh. Pero the moment you see the breathing light effect, pag may notification ka, wow, sobrang sarap sa pakiramdam. So ito na yung magnetic trigger button. So if you switch it, magpa-pop out na yung buttons. Super useful siya sa mga shooting games like Call of Duty, PUBG, and even on Genshin Impact. Mas solid nga lang yung sa Black Shark 4 if my memory serves me right. So how does it feel ba? Actually, pag ginamit mo yung free TPU case, the buttons kinda just disappear. So every time you put it in your jeans pocket, parang wala lang. Hindi siya yung tipong magkakapindot-pindot mo na yung mga buttons. Pag wala ka sa game, pwede ka mag-assign ng mga functions doon sa dalawang trigger buttons like you can turn on the flash, start a video recording, or turn on vibrate mode or silent mode. Ito, makikita nyo siya. The display is extremely good. 6.67-inch AMOLED screen with 120Hz refresh rate, sobrang accurate in colors, flawless viewing angles. Outdoors baka mo, sobrang linaw pa rin ang display kahit tirik ang araw. Though the refresh rate can only adjust from 120Hz or 60Hz. Widevine level 1 na rin siya, so you can watch HD content on Netflix plus HDR10+. However, yung Dolby Vision, hindi ko talaga siya makitaan kung naka-enable ba siya even on Netflix. I hope they fix it on a future update. Sa panahon ngayon, basta naka-AMOLED screen ka, goods na yan, kahit hindi mo na i-check na maigi. So, nakakuha tayo ng more than 903,000 points sa Antutu Benchmark, and comparing it with the other phones na na-review natin, swabe talaga. Sobrang smooth when you're like opening apps or pag nag-Facebook kayo or when you're switching apps, using your camera. Actually, pag nagta-type ka, alam mo yung pipindutin mo pa lang yung letter A sa keypad pero lumalabas na siya sa screen mo. I mean, may ganun siyang factor. Pero, how about gaming? So with gaming, actually hindi ko sa inyo ikikwento na ang smooth niya or ang lag niya. Kailangan kasi quantifiable ang metric na gagamitin natin para malaman natin kung maganda ba yung performance ng phone or hindi. Kung familiar na kayo sa FPS, then I guess you can skip and move on to the next chapter. Pero kung bagong term lang ito sa inyo, malaking tulong to, especially if naghahanap kayo ng mga gaming phones. So ito yung mga benchmark scores na nakuha ko gamit ang Wetest Perfdog, which is the sponsor of this video. Bali isa itong gaming benchmark tool that will tell us kung ilan ba yung FPS ng game or how much CPU or GPU usage is using, battery temperature, at marami pang iba. So FPS basically is telling us kung gaano karaming frames ang kayang i-render ng iyong phone in 1 second. So the higher the number, the better. So 30 FPS is the bare minimum. Ito yung masasabi nating playable na siya. Somehow pwede ka na rin mag-enjoy. Pero in today's standard, it's really 60 FPS. Dito mo mafe-feel na smooth ang graphics, smooth ang motion ng mga characters mo, hindi naglalag. So tandaan nyo yun, 60 FPS. Sa mobile phone, 120 FPS is kinda starting na rin. Even the Poco F3 is capable of running games in 120 FPS, kaya lang it comes with a lot of compromises. So to recap, kapag ang average FPS score natin is close to 60, like around 55 or 51, then we can say that smooth yung motion niya, smooth yung graphics, hindi nag-stutter, hindi choppy, hindi naglalag. However, kung napalayo na siya to like maybe 40 or even 24 or 23, then dito na natin masasabi na naglalag na yung game, nag-stutter na yung game, choppy na siya. So, ayun. So let's start with Mobile Legends. Actually, this game can run on a lot of phones right now, kahit mga tig 5,000 or 7,000. And based on the data that we got, minamani lang to ni Poco F4 GT. Pero if we set it to ultra frame rate, so ito yung 120 FPS mode ni Mobile Legends, actually magra-run siya ng 120 FPS for a few minutes, pero as soon as uminit na yung phone mo, it'll throttle down to 90 FPS. So based on my testing, I got an average of 73.84 FPS. However, pag in-enable mo yung performance mode sa Game Turbo, mame-maintain niya actually yung 120 FPS. And sa pagtitesting ko, I got an average FPS of 100.65. Pero man, sobrang init ng phone. Umabot siya ng 44 degrees Celsius. Again, 60 FPS yung ideal frame rate natin. So kahit na bumaba yung FPS from 120 to around 77, napaka-smooth pa rin ng gameplay sa totoo lang. Now with Call of Duty Mobile, again, with balance mode, and nakaset ka to, I guess, very high and then max frame rate, it will run at 60 FPS, pero as soon as uminit na uli yung phone mo, it'll throttle down to 30 FPS. So, based on my gameplay, I got around 39.58 average FPS. Which is super ramdam kasi 60 and 30 FPS, sobrang laki ng difference nun. So, mafe-feel mo talaga na nagcha-choppy yung game. Though, kapag in-enable mo uli yung performance mode sa Game Turbo app, ayun, masusustain niya uli yung 60 FPS. Pero again, mag-iinit talaga yung phone. And sa Battle Royale mode, ayun, it's the same issue. Sobrang umiinit siya. So from 60 FPS, ang bilis niya mag-throttle down to around 24 FPS. Pero pag nag-performance mode ka, again, it's the same thing. Mame-maintain niya yung smoothness, kaya lang sobrang iinit yung phone. Also, fake news yung FPS counter ni Poco F4 GT. As you can see, it is running 60 and then pag in-enable mo yung performance mode, magiging 120 FPS siya. Actually, no, it is not. It's just running 60 FPS based on the Wetest Perfdog tool. So Genshin Impact, first few minutes on the highest setting at 60 FPS. Sobrang smooth siya. Guess what? Ayun, it's the same thing. Pag uminit na yung phone, magta-throttle down na. Ayan, kitang-kita mo naman yung frame rate drop niya from 60 FPS. So bakit kaya ito nangyayari? By nature kasi yung Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 is a very hot chip by nature. Sobrang lakas niya pero sobrang bilis niya rin uminit. One factor din is yung cooling ng Poco F4 GT, so it might not be enough. So after using a cooler, even playing it after 30 minutes, naging stable na ang FPS niya to a very respectable 49 average FPS. You know, same thing happens if you use a cooler with Mobile Legends at 120 FPS or with Call of Duty Mobile. Nagiging okay na somehow yung kanyang frame rate. So, it is very advisable to use a cooler when you're gonna game with the Poco F4 GT. So, Marvel Super Wars, League of Legends, at PUBG, on default settings, walang fan, very stable ang FPS scores na nakuha natin. So, yeah, good. So, trending parati ang pag-iinit at pagte-thermal throttle ni Poco F4 GT. Need mo talaga gumamit ng cooling fan para maiwasan ang pagte-thermal throttle nito. To blame talaga is the Samsung 4nm process na gamit ngayon ni Qualcomm. Kaya nga sa next chip nila, yung Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, lumipat na sila sa TSMC. I will be uploading a dedicated gaming review for the Poco F4 GT, so iisa-isayin natin yung graphic settings ni Genshin Impact. And yeah, actually if my games kayo na gusto nyong itest ko, then comment it down below. Also, I would highly recommend you guys to purchase the Wetest Perfdog, lalong-lalo na sa mga phone enthusiasts or mga phone reviewers or even game developers. Compatible ito to both iOS and Android. You can use my discount code BiscuitTV. You can click on the link down below and punta lang kayo doon sa chat box and type nyo lang yung code na yan. And right then and there, you will get a 20% discount sa inyong purchase. The 64-megapixel Sony IMX686 sensor is good. It will give you punchy colors, great detail, pero I find the photos to be a bit soft. Ito yung tipong kailangan mo mag-shoot ng multiple times or have a really steady hands to achieve that perfect photo. It will actually get worse kung kulang ang lighting sa area nyo. The 8-megapixel ultra-wide sensor is meh. I mean, just like the other mid-range phones, meron siyang color shifting. Lalo na yung macro lens, man, brutal. Like, kailangan mo ng steady hands, sobrang daming light, at yung subject mo dapat di gumagalaw. Masabi lang talaga na triple camera, pero I'm not complaining, hindi naman talaga yung camera ang focus ng phone na ito. The selfie 20 megapixel Sony IMX596 is actually quite good. You know, it's quite decent on videos and even on selfie photos. Just make sure na i-disable nyo yung beautification effect para hindi magmukhang edited yung mga selfies natin. So videos, pag 30 FPS on both Full HD and 4K, mafe-feel mo talaga na nag-jitter siya when you pan the camera left or right. Pero if you switch it to 60 FPS, you know, somehow nawawala siya. Meron pa ring very small times na nangyayari, pero most of the time, okay na. Meron ding malagimbal, you know, effect na nangyayari. So parang there's definitely a digital stabilization, pero ayun, suabe. Mas richer din yung color na makukuha mo compared to real life. So meron itong quad speakers, dual tweeter and woofer na siya. So basically, makikita mo sila magkahiwalay na yung dalawang channels. Comparing it to my S21 Ultra, mas malakas pa rin yung speakers niya. However, the clarity, the vocals ni Poco F4 GT, may mas body siya, mas lively ang tunog, better separation ng instrument. Alam niyo, sa tenga ko, mas maganda pa rin yung tunog ni Poco F4 GT. So battery is just fine on medium usage. The whole day, pag uwi mo, meron ka pang around 20%. And charging this phone, sabi nila, it will only take around 17 minutes. Based on my test, yes, you will achieve 17 minutes, pero dapat naka-turn off siya and may gamit kang cooler. And also with Call of Duty, you will get around 4 hours and 9 minutes on a full charge. So, panalo na rin. Flagship build quality, flagship display, flagship speakers, flagship overall performance. Super sulit ang presyo niya. Well, except for gaming. Is this the right gaming phone for you? Poco F4 GT is catered towards those enthusiast gamers. Sila yung mga tipong okay lang sa kanila mag-adjust ng settings to maximize their phone or gumamit ng cooler or alam mo yun, masabi na naka-Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 sila. Pero kung ikaw yung tipong gusto mo lang maglaro, na-stress ka sa mga settings na yan or ayaw mo gumamit ng cooler, then I would recommend the Poco F3 or the Black Shark 4 instead. Would I recommend this phone? No! Well, the phone is designed for purely gaming, like may trigger buttons ka, may quad speakers, RGB, gaming yung design. Pero tingnan nyo itong benchmarking scores na nakuha natin with Poco F3 and Black Shark 4. So walang cooling na ginamit dyan, walang special settings na ginawa dyan. And kung i-compare mo yung scores nila sa Poco F4 GT na naka-cooler pa, madidismaya ka na lang talaga. So bakit ka pa bibili ng mas mahal, di ba? I mean, I guess you get my point. So again, this is Ian. I'll be seeing you on the next one.